When cities applied to host the 2026 World Cup, they didn't just submit stadium plans and transport proposals, they submitted human rights commitments. That detail, published this morning by the Council on Foreign Relations, deserves to be sitting at the top of every conversation about this tournament, because these weren't vague aspirational statements, they were specific documented pledges made to FIFA as part of the hosting agreement. Atlanta pledged to raise hourly worker wages to $17.50 for the duration of the tournament. Dallas committed to actively looking out for human trafficking near venues. Vancouver outlined a zero-tolerance policy for all acts of discrimination. These commitments existed because the 2026 World Cup was for the first time in the tournament's history subject to human rights criteria embedded directly into the bidding process. FIFA required them. The host cities agreed to them. They are on the record. And on the day the 2026 World Cup officially begins, June 11, 2026, Amnesty International's assessment of what those pledges have produced is a single phrase: human rights emergency. Not progress, not partial delivery, a human rights emergency. In the principal host country of the tournament that was supposed to be the first with human rights criteria built into its foundation. That contradiction between the pledge and the reality, between the commitment and the assessment, is the thread that runs through every problem this tournament is still carrying as it opens today. And those problems are not shrinking, they are growing, which is what we're here to talk about. Let's go through the picture as it stands right now on opening day. Start with the hotel situation, because a word was used in the American Hotel and Lodging Association's most recent survey that deserves to be repeated because it's the word that strips away every projection and leaves the commercial reality of this tournament plain. The word was non-event. Not disappointing, not below forecast, respondents in multiple host city markets described the 2026 World Cup as a non-event. Their reasoning was specific: late FIFA room releases and weak international fan travel. 80% of hotels across U.S. host markets reported bookings tracking below initial forecasts. In Kansas City, demand is trailing a typical June or July with no World Cup at all. In Atlanta, the host city that made headlines for its relatively stronger bookings, even the Georgia Hotel and Lodging Association president framed the outlook carefully, saying activity was expected to accelerate significantly in the coming days. Expected to, not had already. A week into a tournament that was supposed to have triggered the biggest hospitality boom in American sporting history, the watchword in the sector is still expected. The Newsweek assessment, published 3 weeks ago, remains the most accurate single-sentence description of where this tournament's commercial foundations stand. Supply outstripping demand when it comes to tickets, as well as the broader services ecosystem sustaining the spectacle. Supply outstripping demand, at a tournament FIFA compared to 1,000 years of previous World Cups. Now let's talk about what's growing, because new problems have arrived this week that weren't part of any previous assessment. The Iran ticket situation has taken a specific new turn. According to Newsweek's Tournament Eve analysis, Iran's group matches against New Zealand, Belgium, and Egypt have the highest volume of unsold tickets of any team in the competition. Over 3,000 seats remain available for each of those fixtures. The Iranian Football Federation, FFIR, accused organizers of revoking the federation's ticket allocation in the days before the tournament opened. That accusation, an official claim by a qualified nation's football federation that their own seat allocation was removed by the tournament organizers, has not been formally addressed by FIFA in public. The federation made the claim: the seats are unsold, the tournament has begun. And the answer to why there are more unsold tickets for Iran's matches than for any other team in this World Cup has not been provided by the organization running it.
Iran, remember, qualified in full. They beat Mali 4-0 in their final warm-up. They're based in Tijuana and crossing the border for match days. Their players are ready, their federation is present, and their fans, both the diaspora already in the United States and the supporters who couldn't get visas to travel, will be watching from wherever they can. but they're not in the stadium, and the seats they should have occupied are empty. Here's where things get interesting, because the injury situation heading into this tournament is also still developing, and it's doing so in a way that compounds the existing problems rather than sitting alongside them. The ESPN injury tracker published this week confirms the scale of what the pre-tournament calendar has produced. Spain lost Fermín López to a fractured metatarsal on May 17th. The Netherlands lost Matthijs de Ligt to back surgery, hasn't played since November 30th, and then lost Jurrien Timber to a groin injury just days before the opening ceremony. Brazil are without Estevão, whose hamstring injury at Manchester United in April proved far more serious than initially diagnosed, and without Rodrigo. Neymar arrived with a grade 2 calf injury that gives him a narrow window to be fit for the opening match against Morocco on June 13th. That injury list is not random bad luck. The fifth Pro European League's complaint, filed with the European Commission and currently under examination, argues specifically that the expanded Club World Cup and the saturated international calendar have placed player welfare at systematic risk. The complaint uses the word abusive. And the injury tracker going into this tournament is the most comprehensive evidence available that the complaint's underlying argument is correct. Players arrived at this World Cup carrying damage accumulated across a calendar that FIFA expanded for commercial reasons. The players who tore ligaments at the Club World Cup last summer, who were asked to be there by the same organization now asking them to run across pitches in 39-degree heat, are missing. The players who made it, many of them are managing conditions that their medical staff are monitoring in real time, one training session at a time. Think about that for a moment. The best football players on earth, at the peak of their careers, in what should be the pinnacle event of the sport they've dedicated their lives to, and a significant number of them are arriving damaged, absent, or uncertain about their fitness because the organization that runs this tournament also runs the competition that broke them. Now let's bring in the comparison that makes the 2026 situation genuinely different from any previous tournament under fire. In 2018, Russia carried governance and geopolitical concerns. In 2022, Qatar carried human rights concerns. Both of those tournaments had their controversies concentrated in specific categories. They were controversial for identifiable, debatable reasons that produced genuine arguments on multiple sides. The 2026 World Cup is the first to carry documented problems simultaneously across every category of sporting event management: legal, the Attorney General subpoenas; commercial, the non-event hotel descriptor; physical, the heat risk affecting 26 matches; labor, the SoFi worker authorization vote; medical, the injury crisis driven by calendar overload; diplomatic, the referee denied at the border; human rights, Amnesty's emergency assessment; access, fans from 4 qualified nations locked out; financial, the $250 million host city shortfall. No previous tournament has arrived carrying all of those simultaneously. And the problems aren't static, they're growing. The Iran ticket allocation accusation is new. The injury updates are new. The hotel non-event descriptor emerged in the week before opening. The CFR human rights analysis was published 7 hours ago, on the day the tournament began. The problems are growing as the football starts. That is the specific dynamic that makes this tournament unlike any that preceded it. Now here is what is also true, and what the football is about to do. Mexico and South Africa kick off today in a stadium that has hosted a World Cup final in 1970 and 1986 and witnessed the greatest footballers of 2 different eras lift the same trophy in the same bowl. 83,000 people will be inside it when the whistle blows. The noise will be extraordinary. The opening ceremony featured Shakira. The ball is the Trionda, the first rechargeable match ball in World Cup history, and it has been charged.
The football over the next 39 days will be some of the finest produced in this sport. Players preparing in camps from Kansas City to Tijuana are ready. Messi, at 38 in his last World Cup, is ready. Mbappe, 1 goal from the France all-time scoring record, is ready. Lamine Yamal, 18 years old, is ready. The matches will produce goals and moments and stories that nobody predicted and everybody will remember. And here's what that football will do. It will shift the conversation. Not eliminate it. The Attorney General investigation continues regardless. The heat risk doesn't stop because Argentina score. The Iran ticket allocation question doesn't disappear when New Zealand take the field. But the football will change what the conversation is about. It will give people something to watch that is bigger than the mess surrounding it. Whether that conversion is earned or merely postponed is the question this tournament will answer by July 19th. What do you think? Now that the matches have started, are you following the football and setting the problems aside, or does the weight of what we've covered today stay with you as you watch?